So if we're looking at the passenger carrying drivers, it's a 10-hour drive limit, 15 hours of on-duty time. And now that includes like the pre-trip that I mentioned earlier, washing, fueling, etc. So when it all adds up, he cannot go or be on duty longer than 15 hours at any time. Otherwise, he needs a full 8-hour break. The rule that really actually I'm starting to see affecting more tours is this 60, 70 hour limit, which is based on a 67, 7-day, 8-day. In our case, because we are interstate, which means we travel the country, we fall under the 8-day, 70-hour rule. And in that being said, the 8-day, 70-hour rule follows in a block of 8 days. So that means as he goes, and there's like 8 days have gone by, it keeps shifting. So one day would fall off, the 9th day would fall off. And when it falls off, the accumulation is the mathematical addition of all those 8 days that are following. So if I'm driving tonight and I did a 10-hour drive, and 8 days ago I did a 10-hour drive, that 10 hours would fall off, but it wouldn't necessarily mean that I gained 10 hours. It's whatever the addition is of those other 8 days from tomorrow on back. I know it's a little hard to wrap your head around, but just think of it as an 8-day block that continues to move forward, and it's the accumulation, mathematical accumulation of the work done of all those days. Not just drive time, it's hours of service time, which includes on-duty not driving. The only time a driver can go more than 10 hours is if there are adverse road conditions that are documentable, and that's 395.2, which basically states that it could be snow, sleet, fog, other adverse road or weather conditions that were not seen or known of at the time of departure. And what that really means is, like, if you were leaving tonight and you have a run and you've done your homework and you've looked to see, oh man, I can do this in 8 hours. Because it's like, you know, maybe a 520 mile run, and you look and mathematically you can do it at the average speed, etc. And then you leave out, and, you know, maybe an hour later you get this big 40-mile detour that you didn't know or expected. You could use that 395.2 rule if you go over your 10 hours. Now with hours of service, we're talking about a 24-hour consecutive clock. Within that 24 hours, what can sometimes happen is you'll have 2 drive times within that spot. So a driver technically in a 24-hour period could have as much as 15 hours of driving time, still with an 8-hour break. And if this is the case, then those 8-hour blocks that I was talking about are accumulating a lot more time than, say, 10 hours. Could be a 15-hour block that drops off, or you accumulated in a 24-hour period. So those 8 24-hour period blocks can add up if you're on a really hard driving tour. Would look similar to this, where you're taking your 8-hour breaks, but the driver is accumulating, because it's about a 19 to 2,000 mile run. He's going to be accumulating at least probably 580 to 600 miles every day. So in a 3-day or 4-day period, by the time he gets to Reno, he has 4 days of pretty heavy drive time. And some of those days would have had 10 hours, 8-hour break. You would have accumulated more hours in that 24-hour block. So by the time you get to Reno, he's got days that probably have 15 hours of drive time and whatever, maybe an hour with fueling. So 16-hour blocks coming in with him. So by the time he gets to Reno, you know, not only for the show, if you have the show going from Reno to Seattle, he could be running out of hours, which would mean even though you took your DOT breaks, he's still out of his 870 because he's been driving so hard and accumulated so many hours. And we all know how expensive flights can start to cost, especially when they're done at the last minute. And flights would be what you would have to do in order to stay legal and fly in co-drivers to keep your driver DOT legal. So in order to avoid all this, it's smart planning and understanding the rules and the regulations that the FMCSA has laid out for all commercial carriers, including motor coaches and passenger carrying vehicles such as entertainer coaches. If you'd like more information on this, and I highly recommend that you do it, go to the federal government site, www.fmcsa.dot.gov, and read up on it, and you will be the most awesome tour manager, booking agent, because you will be saving your client money. And that way your client will make more money. This is Neville. Peace out.